All right, listen closely because what I'm about to share with you might be the one idea that separates the next 10 years of your life from the last 10. Every single day, somewhere in this world, someone is chasing a shortcut, a hack, a trick, a fast lane, hoping to skip the very process that was designed to make them strong. And here's the tragedy. The easy way rarely fails you immediately. It fails you later, quietly, when you need strength and discover you never built any. So stay with me because by the end of this, you're going to see your struggles differently. Not as punishment, but as construction. And once you see that, you can never again look at hard work the same way. Let's start here. Difficulty is not the obstacle to your success. It is the material your success is made from. Nobody builds a fortress out of feathers. You don't get strong arms from lifting nothing, and you don't get a strong life from carrying nothing. Every callus on a working man's hand tells a story of resistance turned into capability. So the next time life hands you something heavy, don't ask why me. Ask what is this building in me? Because the weight you're carrying today is quietly forging the shoulders you'll need tomorrow. Think about the blacksmith for a moment. He doesn't pull the blade out of the fire because the fire is uncomfortable. He knows the fire is the whole point. He knows that steel left untouched stays soft, stays dull, stays useless. It's the heat, the hammer, the repeated strikes that force the metal to become something sharp enough to matter. Your life works the same way. Every hard season you've ever lived through was not a delay in your story. It was the forge. And you don't get to choose whether you go through the fire. You only get to choose whether you come out of it sharpened or you come out of it bitter. Now here's where people get it backwards. They think discipline is a punishment, when really discipline is a form of self-respect. Every time you choose the disciplined path over the convenient one, you are sending a message to your own future. I am worth the effort. Missing a workout doesn't just cost you a day. It costs you a piece of your self-trust. And self-trust, once eroded, is expensive to rebuild. So guard your discipline like you'd guard your reputation, because in many ways, they are the same thing. And here's what nobody tells you about discipline. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself. Nobody claps when you go to bed on time instead of scrolling for another hour. Nobody notices when you choose the harder version of the truth instead of the comfortable lie. Discipline is built entirely in private, in the moments no one is watching, which is exactly why it's the most honest measure of who you actually are. Your reputation is what other people think of you. Your character, your discipline, is what you do when you're certain no one will ever find out. Let's talk about the myth of the shortcut. A shortcut promises you the destination without the journey, but what they don't tell you is the journey is where you were supposed to change. Skip the journey and you arrive at the destination as the same person who left, unprepared to hold on to what you gained. That's why so many people who win the lottery lose it all within a few years. They got the result without becoming the person who could sustain it. Growth isn't a bonus feature of hard work, it's the entire point of it. You see this everywhere once you know where to look. The business that grows too fast without the foundation to hold it collapses under its own weight. The relationship rushed past the hard conversations falls apart the moment real conflict shows up. The body transformed by a crash diet returns to where it started the second the discipline disappears because nothing was actually built, only borrowed. A shortcut doesn't erase the debt of growth. It just defers it with interest to a version of you who isn't ready to pay it. Here's a truth that will save you years of frustration. Consistency will always outperform intensity. One brutal, heroic effort followed by 3 weeks of nothing builds nothing lasting. But a small, steady effort repeated daily compounds into something unstoppable. Water doesn't cut through rock with one powerful strike. It does it with relentless repetition over time. So stop looking for the one big move that changes everything and start looking for the small, disciplined action you can repeat for the next 365 days. Think about water and rock for a moment longer, because the lesson runs deeper than most people realize. If that water hit the stone once, even with tremendous force, the rock wouldn't even notice. It would sit there unmoved, unimpressed, exactly as it was before. But let that same water drip slowly, patiently, day after day, year after year, and eventually it carves canyons that outlast mountains. That's not the power of intensity. That's the power of consistency. And here's the part that should genuinely humble you. The water never got stronger. The rock simply couldn't outlast the repetition. You don't need to become a different person overnight. You just need to keep showing up long after everyone else has stopped. This is why so many people fail to change their lives despite genuinely trying. They go hard for 2 weeks and quit. They chase motivation instead of building habits. And motivation, by its very nature, doesn't last. It's a spark, not a fuel source. What lasts is the small, unglamorous, repeated action that nobody applauds. The daily read, the daily workout, the daily discipline that looks like nothing on any single day but becomes undeniable over a year. Nobody is impressed by day 1. Nobody is impressed by day 11. That's the trap. The results are invisible right when you need encouragement the most. So most people quit in the silent middle, right before the compounding would have started to show. The people who win aren't the ones who felt the most motivated. They're the ones who kept their word to themselves on the days they felt nothing at all. So stop chasing the one big move that will change everything overnight. There isn't one. Instead, find the small action you can repeat every single day for the next year, because that quiet, steady repetition is what compounds into the kind of strength that intensity alone could never build. Now let's address the excuses, because I know they're there. I don't have time. I don't have resources. Conditions aren't right. Understand this. Conditions are never perfectly right. They weren't right for the people who came before you, and they won't be right for the people who come after you either. If you're waiting for the ideal moment, the ideal environment, the ideal set of circumstances before you commit to building something strong, you will wait forever, because that moment doesn't exist. It never has. Strength isn't built in ideal conditions. It's built in spite of them. The trees that grow in the harshest winds develop the deepest roots. Look at the trees that survive the harshest environments. The ones exposed to relentless wind, poor soil, brutal winters. Those trees don't grow weak from the struggle. They grow the deepest roots of any tree in the forest, because the very difficulty they face forces them to anchor themselves more powerfully just to survive. Meanwhile, trees that grow in sheltered, easy conditions often topple at the first real storm because they never needed deep roots, until suddenly they did, and it was too late. Your excuses are doing the same thing to you that shelter does to a tree. They're keeping you comfortable, and they're keeping you shallow. Every time you say, I'll start when things are easier, you're choosing shallow roots over deep ones. But the truth is, the very difficulty you're avoiding right now, the lack of time, the lack of resources, the imperfect conditions, that difficulty is exactly what would sharpen you if you stopped waiting and started working anyway. Strong people don't wait for easy. They build anyway. And that's the difference. Stop waiting for easy conditions to build a strong life, because the very difficulty you're avoiding is the thing sharpening you. And notice something else about excuses. They're rarely lies. That's what makes them so dangerous. You really don't have much time. You really are exhausted. The conditions really aren't fair. An excuse doesn't have to be false to be a cage. It just has to be convincing enough that you stop moving. The people who build something real aren't the ones with fewer valid excuses than you. They're the ones who decided the excuse, however true, wasn't going to be the final word. And let's be honest about something else. Pain. At some point on this path, it's going to hurt. Your body will resist the discipline. Your mind will negotiate for comfort. People around you may not understand why you've suddenly stopped taking the easy road. Some of them will even try to pull you back down to where they still are. Not out of malice, but because your growth quietly reminds them of the growth they haven't started. Or let them talk, let them doubt. The trees don't stop growing because the wind has an opinion about it. And finally, let's talk about legacy, because that's really what this is about. The easy way might get you comfort for a season, but the strong way builds something that outlasts you. When you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you're not just building a better life for yourself. You're setting a new standard for everyone watching you, your children, your team, your community. They won't remember how comfortable you were. They'll remember how strong you became, and they'll build their own lives standing on what you proved was possible. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, understand what you're actually doing. You're not just building a better life for yourself in that moment. You're setting a new standard for everyone who's watching you, whether you realize they're watching or not. Your children are watching. Your team is watching. The people who look up to you, even quietly from a distance, are watching. And what they're absorbing isn't your comfort. Comfort teaches them nothing. What they're absorbing is your example. Proof of what's possible when someone refuses to take the easy way out. Think about the people who shaped your own life the most. Was it the ones who had it easy? Or was it the ones who stood strong through difficulty, who kept showing up, who built something real out of hard work and refused to quit? Those are the lives that leave a mark. Those are the lives people quote, remember, and try to live up to long after they're gone. Nobody writes a eulogy about how comfortable someone was. They write about what that person carried. and how they carried it, and who they became in the carrying. So don't build your life to feel easy today. That kind of life fades fast and leaves nothing behind. Build it instead to stand strong for decades, strong enough to support the people who come after you, strong enough to be remembered, strong enough to matter. Because in the end, nobody remembers how comfortable you were. They remember how strong you became. And that strength, the kind built through the hard way, the true way, that's the only legacy that ever truly lasts. There's one more thing I need you to understand before we get to the end of this, because it's the thing most people skip past on their way to the inspiring part. Strength doesn't arrive. It's assembled. Nobody wakes up one morning suddenly capable of carrying what they couldn't carry the day before. It happens in increments so small, you'd almost call them nothing. One more rep than you wanted to do, one more hour of focus than felt comfortable, one more honest conversation you didn't want to have, but had anyway. None of those moments feel like transformation while you're living them. They feel like inconvenience. It's only when you look back months or years later that you realize those small inconveniences were the actual construction site of the person you've become. And here's something worth sitting with. The version of you that exists right now was also built this way, whether you meant to build it or not. Every excuse you've ever accepted built something too. Every time you chose comfort over growth, you weren't standing still. You were constructing a different kind of life, one with shallower roots, thinner walls, a weaker foundation. That's the part people don't want to hear. There's no neutral setting. You are either building strength or building fragility every single day, whether or not you're paying attention. The only question that actually matters is which one you've been building lately and whether you're willing to start building the other one starting today. Let's talk about failure for a moment, because it's going to happen, and how you interpret it will decide everything that comes after it. The easy way mindset treats failure as proof that you shouldn't have tried. The strong way mindset treats failure as tuition. Every setback you survive teaches your nervous system something your comfort never could, that you are capable of enduring more than you thought. That's not a metaphor, that's biology. The blacksmith's steel doesn't fear the hammer after enough strikes. It learns to hold its shape under pressure. You are the same. Every hard thing you survive raises the ceiling of what you believe you can survive next time. People who've never failed at anything aren't strong. They're untested. And untested strength is just a theory nobody's proven yet. I want you to think about the people you secretly admire most, not the ones with the nicest houses or the loudest success stories, but the ones whose presence actually makes you want to stand up straighter. Study them for a moment. You'll notice something they all share, something that has nothing to do with talent or luck. They've all paid a price nobody saw. And behind every version of them that looks effortless now, there was a season that looked like nothing was working. A season of quiet reps, unnoticed effort, disappointment absorbed without an audience. The highlight reel only shows up after the years of nothing that made it possible. If you only study people at the moment they arrive, you'll always misunderstand how they got there. And this is exactly why so many people quit right before the breakthrough. They mistake the quiet, invisible middle for evidence that nothing is happening. But growth is almost always underground before it's visible above the surface. A farmer doesn't dig up the seed every few days to check if it's working. He trusts the process he can't see because he understands that visible growth is always preceded by invisible growth. Your discipline right now, the version nobody's applauding, the version that doesn't feel like it's changing anything yet, is doing exactly what the seed is doing underground. It's building root structure before it ever builds height. Don't dig it up to check, just keep watering it. There's a kind of person this message isn't for, and I want to be honest about that. If you're looking for permission to stay comfortable, this isn't going to give it to you. If you want someone to tell you that your circumstances are the reason nothing has worked, I'm not going to tell you that, because it isn't true for most of the people reading or hearing this. But if some part of you is tired of almost, tired of starting over, tired of watching other people build the kind of life you keep telling yourself you'll build someday, then this is for you. Because that tiredness, uncomfortable as it is actually a good sign. It means you haven't fully accepted the shallow version of your life as final. There's still a fight left in you. Good. That's exactly what we're going to use. So let me leave you with this. Somewhere out there, right now, someone is choosing the easy way. And somewhere else, someone is choosing the strong way. 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, those two people will not be living the same life. One will be standing on shallow ground, wondering why everything they built keeps collapsing. The other will be standing on deep roots, unshaken, because they paid the price the easy way never asked you to pay. You now know the truth. Difficulty isn't your enemy, it's your builder. Discipline isn't a cage, it's your self-respect in action. The shortcut isn't a gift, it's a theft of the very growth you needed. Consistency, not intensity, is what compounds into greatness. Conditions will never be perfect, so stop waiting for them. And the life you build the hard way is the only one strong enough to leave behind. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, stop looking for the easy way. Stop searching for the shortcut, the hack, the fast lane that promises everything and delivers nothing that lasts. Choose the strong way instead. Choose the harder right again and again, one ordinary day at a time, until it's no longer a choice but who you are. Because the easy way might carry you through today. But the strong way, the way you build brick by brick, storm by storm, decision by decision, that's the way that carries generations. Build strong, stand strong, leave something behind that lasts. That's the way.